I wanted to go back to James Carville. Now, I don't know if you guys remember James Carville or are familiar with him at all, but Carville was a very... you guys are? Okay, cool. So for those of you who aren't aware, Carville's very old. So like he was really popular back during the Clinton administration, and you saw him pop up every now and then with Obama. It was James Carville and Paul Begala. And Carville is... God, the guy's got to be like 70 something. The guy is ancient, right? He's been around since I was a child, and
he's been old the whole time. He looks like Patrick Stewart, where like he's just been old for my entire life, and he just gets older.
You know the Patrick Stewart thing. Like I remember, man, I can't remember when it was, but it was like maybe 10 years ago. And I was like, God, Patrick Stewart is still alive. I said, this dude, he was old in the 80s, right? And yeah. And so I look, because like Star Trek Next Generation was like late 80s, I think. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he was like almost 50 or something back then, or in his 40s. Like, okay, so he actually is super old, but he has always looked old. Yeah. But James Carville, I got a couple clips from him. I think this is the one where he's talking about how Biden's messaging is wrong. The Democrats' message is wrong, and that's why they're losing voters. If I can pull this one up here, let me see.
Okay. He's 79. I looked it up.
Wondering why does
Patrick Stewart?
No, James Carville.
Oh, James Carville. Oh, that makes more sense, TJ. Why would she say? So this is James Carville telling us his opinion on why we're losing so many votes on the Democrats.
And we keep wondering why these young people aren't coming home to the Democrats, or why blacks are not coming home to the Democrats. Because Democratic messaging is full of shit. That's why.
Okay, so far so good, right? I think we're.
I've never been as big a fan of James Carville as I am in this moment right now.
That's the secret, James Carville. Say a sentence and a half, and then just stop. And you're.
He managed to say a sentence where he used the term blacks that made me feel good about him when he finished it. Which is an impressive thing to do.
Okay, so it's funny you say this because this is a kind of a side detour here, but this is something I thought for a long time, that the term blacks has become a pejorative, and it wasn't always like that. I mean, I remember back in like the 90s and everything, that's just what people said. That's how you were. It wasn't any different than saying Asians. Like, that's just what you said. But what happened was that certain folk kept saying it, and the word became poison. And now, the only people who say it are 80-year-olds like James Carville and, like Tim Pool folks, stuff that are people that are wildly racist. It's kind of why I never say Jews. I never say that. I never say, this is why Jews. It just like, because certain people say the Jews. Like, I don't like to say that. But anyway, back to what Carville's saying here.
And talk about cost of living. And we're going to help deal with this. And don't talk about fucking Gaza and student loans. That's so out. The Harvard, that guy Delavolpe is pretty good. Give him 15 issues. You know what the number 14 and 15 issue were total? Student debt in Gaza. I forgot which order it's in. And why are we forgiving student loans for people that go to Harvard, which, according to Scott Galloway, quite accurately, is nothing but a hedge fund that has classrooms?
All right. So managed to fuck up the entire thing. It's like, we're losing votes because our messaging is so bad. What we need to do is stop talking about Gaza and stop trying to cancel student loan debt. That's what's going to get young people over to the Democratic Party. And it's like he doesn't realize that, you're a symbol of why the Democratic Party is falling apart. Like you're a perfect encapsulation of it right here. What do you think, Rachel?
I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, oh God, he could have stopped. I'm trying to follow the logic. Like I'm honestly confused. So we stop talking about the things that they talk about, or does he think that these are like China plants of topics, and that people are not actually just paying loans for decades and decades and not seeing them go down? Like,
I think he accidentally brain mashed two different ideas into the same thought, because he starts off talking about getting black people and young voters more engaged. Then he talks about issues that actually matter to Americans. And those aren't the same thing. Like I to a certain extent, I agree with him that I think student loans are an issue that is a little bit like, I think Biden does it to placate the younger audiences, but it isn't actually a winning issue nationwide. However, it doesn't work because he so obviously like disregards us at every other turn. Like that does matter to us, but he's kind of right that like I would so much rather Joe Biden stop his small amounts of student loan forgiveness.
I know.
Stop his support for Israel and I'm sure there's a couple other things I can or do better on climate change. Like those two things would significantly push the youth vote, and no amount of student loan forgiveness is going to do it. And I think I might see what the 80-year-old brain mushed together there as a coherent thought, but I could be wrong about my interpretation. But I do think that there is good thought happening there somewhere. It just didn't come out correctly.
No, you're correct, because earlier in the conversation he talks about the fact that Democratic messaging is bad, that they're not talking about kitchen table issues that matter to the majority of the voting populace. And so he says that, you're focusing too much on Gaza and student loan repayment when those don't crack the top 10 issues. We talk about Gaza, how it doesn't crack the top 10 majority. The problem with this is Biden is not having a hard time getting old people to vote for him. Like that's not a concern for him. Like getting the old people have made it very clear that they are voting for Biden come hell or high water. It does not fucking matter. And so if you know this, if you know you've got that vote in the bag, but you're kind of shaky on the young vote, I don't know, maybe pay attention to the issues they care about. Like sure, it's number 15 or so nationwide, but in the demographic that you're suffering with, I don't know. That seems like something that you should, pay some attention to. And also,
not to mention, TJ, that the demographic that is going to be the young people going out and volunteering, go to door-to-door canvassing.
Good point.
Volunteering at the polls. Like those are all young people and very old people, but the very old people aren't going door-to-door canvassing because they're old. But like, that's the young people's job. And if you don't have that energy behind your campaign, it doesn't matter how much you raise because they weren't getting paid anyway. Like they do have an impact, especially to get out the vote, which is what is going to matter most in this election because everyone already has their mind made up, and it's really going to hurt from just the mechanics of how the election works.
It's a good point, John.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what you were saying earlier about like, look, we can talk all day about what the issues are that people should care about, yada, yada, yada. But the thing is, the rules of the game have been set. And it's in order to get an election, you got to get voters. If the voters you don't have are young people, then by the rules of the game, you got to appeal to the young people. And what do the young people care about? That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, he says we got to stop talking about these. Does Biden spend a lot of time talking about Gaza? Because I ain't seen it. I mean, what the fuck is he talking about? Like Biden avoids that topic every chance he gets.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said that, TJ, because that's the problem that Biden's in, is that he's not going out and talking about it. He's being forced to talk about it because reporters are starting to do their jobs, and everyone is talking about it online because online's a lot of young people who care about it. And so like he is forced to talk about it, and his position is stupid because the conservatives will bash him from the right, saying he's not, anytime he opens his mouth, he's not supportive enough of Israel. And the young people and the left is going to just crush him over and over again because he's supporting Israel. And he's walking this middle ground that appeals to nobody who wasn't already going to vote for him. And it is a really, really I said it a long time ago. Back in November, I would have been like, it's a hard political decision. Yeah, how do you like come away by support? But at this point, like, dude, just like just rip off the Band-Aid, because like this middle ground isn't gonna win anyone over.
Yeah. Democrats have perfected the art of scrambling for the middle ground. Like they can't help it. Sorry, we're gonna say, Rachel.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, you're exactly right, and that's the weaponized incompetence. They don't want change to happen, and how they accomplish change not happening is sitting there in the middle and trying to have it both ways. And you can at least intellectually appreciate that that the Republicans just say it. They just pick a side.
Yeah, they've gotten better at it. They have zeroed their targets and everything on this. So I wanted to end this by showing now James Carville doesn't just offer criticism, folks. He's a fair man, and he in this clip I'm going to provide right here, he explains what Biden should do, and this is in response to the fact that Trump said that, well, I'm going to debate Biden, but he's going to be drugged up on like the most powerful cocktail of amphetamines and mind sharpeners.
The
known to
cocaine
man,
that the Trumps left in the White House.
Yeah, it's like, and he's probably right. So he says that he wants Biden to take a drug test. This is how Carville says that Biden should respond to this. And you are never going to guess where this is going. If you had a million years, you'd never guess. But
did Keith Schiller steal Trump's medical records from his internist? And where are these medical records? Prove that you're fair. Ask him and keep asking him. And the same thing for the Biden campaign, because you and I are not stupid. We know why he stole the records. All right? Let me put it this way. We have a strong suspicion is he stole the records because he had the goddamn clap. And look up, go to the Mayo Clinic or WebMD or whatever. I get a rash and I look it up on the computer. Go look up how insidious a disease that secondary syphilis can be. I'm not sure he's not having sex anymore because his dick may have fallen off from all the VD he has.
So, let people know Trump has syphilis. That's gonna do it. That is James Carville. This guy probably has 55, 60 years in politics. And toward the end of his life, the best advice he can give to the president of the United States is find evidence that Donald Trump has syphilis, and that'll hand you the election.
Break many, many very important laws to do so, too. to reveal the big reveal, Donald Trump might have gotten around in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
That's
that ended there. I thought that. I couldn't believe when
all
he
the
said
same.
that.
You could break all those laws, and for what? Like, so we can have an explanation for what we're all seeing. We can have like a label to put on the clear madness that we're seeing. We see it. They don't care.
Yeah. Could you imagine one person, like we're debating whether or not Trump's guilty verdict will stop people from voting for him? Do you think one person in the country be like, well, I can't vote for a man with syphilis? Like, well, what kind of person do you think I am? I just like it's the dumbest advice I've ever. So, maybe we shouldn't take Carville's worry too. I didn't bring this up either with that the article I was talking about where it said that Trump was losing support with black voters. John, I think I checked the poll that they were talking about. It was the same one that we mentioned last week. It was a Philadelphia poll where it said that Biden only has support from 70% of black voters and 30% for Trump. Like, no, he doesn't. Nope, sorry. That is not true. It's not. There's no chance in hell that Biden support has gone from like 90% to 70%, and Trump has gained 20% of black vote. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, these polls are a tiny bit flawed, but I forgot to bring that up.
I want to say one thing, just to so we're talking about like how Gaza energizes the youth. Holy shit! I was at and correct me if I have the wrong pronunciation here. I've never understood how to pronounce it, but Hosier. I was at his concert this weekend. The guy who sings "Take Me to Church," that guy, and someone threw a flag up, and he unfurled it, and you saw white and green. And the crowd was about to erupt, and then it was like an LGBT flag, and like the crowd was like, "Okay, I guess." But then he like gave a speech. Okay. Yeah, he gave a speech, and like you could tell he was parsing his words, like in the way where you're like, I don't want to say that like I'm a full blown like Irish revolutionary, but like he used all the keywords, and when he said, "And we need to stand up against Islamophobia," and just the crowd fucking erupts. Like the whole place was waiting for him to say "Free Palestine." I was just like, wow, like this issue, it is, and I've said it, as much as the 15th on the list, whatever, it's the thing that's going to be in the history books because this is what the young people care about. And
I think that in my circles, that it's like, it might be, even if it's 15th on the list, it's like the issue that has veto power. Like it is the deal breaker. It might ultimately be, but look, we all grew up getting Holocaust education every year. It was drilled in, and now I'm looking back on it and being like, oh, hey, maybe discussion for another time. But it's like, if there was a line in the sand, it was genocide. And it's like, I thought we were all on the same page about that. And so it's really the veto issue. It's the red line. It's like, look, inflation might be better, but it's inignorable.
Yeah.
Non-ignorable. All right, guys, if you made it all the way here to the end of this episode, it's probably because we had a lot of banger episodes this week. And if you want to keep on getting notifications when we drop a new episode, just like the one you love so much, make sure to hit that bell icon. And if you have not subscribed for some strange reason, you better do that too. And if you liked our content this week, it was probably because we had an awesome guest. And if you'd like to know where to find her, Rachel, where can people find you?
You can find me on TikTok at authentically ADHD me.
Appreciate it. It was a good time, folks. I highly recommend you check out our libertarian episode. There's a conversation that was caught on a hot mic that you have to listen to. Just take my word for it. You won't regret it. Catch you next time, folks.